We're back. We're back. Listen to the real side, not the right side, not the wrong side. Not that we're back from the last hour. We're back here today for a whole hour of sanity. However, I am a buffoon. See, a lot of you would love to hear. There you go, okay? I'll get it out of the way for you. Thank you, Jason, all right? The live streamer, is playing our, right now it's playing our, what do I call them? Quality classic podcasts. Yeah, previously. Anyway, sorry about that. But if you hop on the website, it's streaming live on Blog Talk, streaming live on Ustream. You can get it. Either one of these works just as well. Or you can go to the, is it hometownstation.com? hometownstation.com. Hit the listen live button there. That's our anchor station. And you can listen to the show there as well. So I apologize, but you know what they say in the real world, right? Deal with it. We've made it so easy for you to get the show in a multitude of ways. Anyway, thank you for joining me today. What's the show about? It's about real topics. We don't speak Politico here. I want to make sure you understand what we're talking about. So it's real talk, real words, real issues, real people. So check out the website, therealside.com. You can, again, you can check out the classic podcasts. You can also take the current poll, and I'm tempted to tell you what it is, but I don't want to tell you what it is. So go ahead and hop on the website, find out what it is, take the poll, hop on the chat room. Always interested in what you have to say during the show, because it makes a real difference as to the direction we take when I'm interviewing guests or talking about a specific topic. If you want to call in and get involved, because drooling on yourself, sitting on the couch, watching soap operas is not going to help us get a better country, a better city, a better state, whatever. So call in, 855-REAL-JOE, 855-732-5563, or you can send me an email during the show. It's joe@therealside.com. Also, again, I want to thank my pips, my politically incorrect posse. You guys are great at sending me stories, although, I can't get through all of them. So when you send them to me, if you put in the subject line what it is, there might be something that gets my blood boiling and will make me look it up faster or work on it faster. Also, our hearts and prayers go out to those people in Colorado, the families who lost members of their family, and the ones that have been shot, still healing in the hospitals. Keep them lifted up in prayer. Keep them in your thoughts. This is a traumatic experience for them, and all is not well everywhere for everyone. Anyway, tomorrow we're going to talk a little bit about the moon landing. You know, that hoax, where we didn't really go to the moon, so we're told. It was an elaborate, although I got to tell you, if any of you watched Star Trek back in the late 60s, to think that we could have pulled off a hoax and made it look real on TV, you're reaching. You got a real stretch going on there, because we did not do well. Although, you got that that news thing that we were going to do? Yeah. You got that? Yeah, I got it. Okay, so flash, breaking news. Okay. President Obama gets the coveted Hugo Chavez endorsement. That's right. Hugo says he's a good guy and America needs him. Anybody? Anybody? All right, once you stop throwing up, I got another one for you. Okay, ready for this one? Fidel Castro's daughter has thrown out her endorsement for the president as well. So he's picking them up quickly, which is what? What are you laughing for? I mean, isn't any endorsement a good endorsement? I don't know. I thought you'd enjoy that, though. As I was looking through reading, I thought that was just great. And before I hit it with the women, we have Women of the Right View on today, where I get a bunch of conservative women in the same room, watch Jason crawl under the desk, and me try to get a few words in edgewise. It's always fun to have them here. You know what? No, I won't. I won't even take the time to do another story. I'm just going to jump right into it. I have Kathy Keller to my left.
Hello, Joe.
I've got my wife, Tammy, sitting to my right.
Hello.
And you will notice that we don't hold back during this show. And I have no flat sides on my head, so she never beats me up when we get home.
Yet.
And I've got Andrea Nelson to my far right, but I have a funny feeling what I should have done was switch seats with her and Kathy for what's going on today.
And I got a good right.
She's got a good right hook, too, so that's going to take... So I'll start off with the easy one, okay? Because, I got a bunch of bar goers in the room with me here. So we're going to take pregnancy test. Here's a story we came across where taking a pregnancy test in a bar is less embarrassing than going to the drugstore, at least according to one customer.
Is it, though?
Really? Now,
I mean, what is that about?
What do you say to your date? Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
Real quick, I got to grab something. Like, that is a buzzkill if I've ever heard one.
No. Well, here's the bar owner says that the reason he installed the pregnancy test dispenser in a woman's restaurant is to make sure that the women could check to see if they were pregnant before they started drinking. But isn't that what leads to pregnancy? Is drinking in a bar?
No, but
I'm sorry.
It was to prevent birth defects. An abundance of caution to make sure that there's not fetal alcohol syndrome, birth defects. Isn't that sweet?
This guy is just looking for some publicity. That's ridiculous.
I think he wants his $3 a crack for those things,
Exactly.
right?
Well, you know, Jody Allen Crow is an expert on fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, and she agrees with him. See the experts, Andrea? Why I don't listen to the experts? Actually, she made that statement after 7 vodka Collins.
No, that's not what it says.
Well, how could you make a statement like that?
How can you pick
and
up
not
one
drink?
in a? I would never imagine picking a pregnancy test up at a bar unless I'd had a few drinks.
Wait, it's $3, and you have to swipe your debit card, guys, in the vending machine that's in the bathroom.
I'll be right out. Yeah. It's having a problem reading my magnetic strip. I'll be out in a second. I mean, are we serious?
I mean, hello.
Yes, Kathy.
Is that really when you think
They're
about it?
embarrassed to go to the drugstore and buy a pregnancy test? I mean, that's ridiculous.
Well,
What about all the girls who are going to see them at the vending machine in the bar and go out and tell everybody in the bar what they just saw them doing?
I know.
okay, but how many people, how many women really don't know that they're pregnant?
Oh my gosh, have you seen that show?
Yeah, I didn't know I was pregnant. Have you seen the people? Come on.
Some of
I'm
them
surprised
are
they
thin.
know they're even
No,
breathing.
Some of them are thin. I mean, you
What,
would never.
PhDs? I feel much better now.
It's shocking. Some of these people, the way they're built, they're slender. But how would that person not know? It's. I mean, this is why they made a whole.
I get the
television show. It's
500-pound
so
woman
crazy.
not knowing she's pregnant. Okay, but even so, how do you not know you're pregnant?
There's not always symptoms, Joe. Not everybody gets the morning sickness or the headaches or the
True.
weight gain or the swoop. You know, I mean, sometimes it takes a few months before you realize it.
Yeah,
Well, I've had 4 children, and I knew I was pregnant. Okay? I could sit here and...
You're above
testimony to
average.
that.
No, all right. Does can anybody out there think this is a good idea? Pregnancy testing in the women's room in the bar?
It's a publicity stunt.
Yes. Agreed. Agreed.
I think
And
it's
look,
just a money-making opportunity. I think the guy's a capitalist.
Oh, we can't have any of that.
We're an opportunist.
That's not going to work
Whatever.
out. Anyway, oh, there that goes. Okay, good. Happy for that. All right, so apparently that didn't go as long as I thought it would go. And you guys
We
are
all
pretty
agree,
bored with
right?
that hard and fast. Well, I thought somebody would think it was an okay thing to do. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk
Do you
about...
think it's okay, Joe?
I'm sorry?
Do you think it's okay?
Hey, I think whatever brings money in. I'm on the capitalist side. I think he should put. Look, if I'm thinking like a real capitalist, he should put birth control pills in there. He should put those in there. Tampon dispensers. I guess they went away to a big degree, right? Maybe even foo-foo powder dispensers in there. Maybe hand lotion dispensers. I would line the walls.
Yeah, they pretty much do, Joe.
What do you? Oh, I have. Look,
Sometimes
just-
you even have a lady in
just
there
for
helping you.
I know.
I wonder if you tip her more for holding your test for you while you be on the stick.
Well, all I'm saying here is the.
Now, where is this
From a-
bar?
from a
And
ga-
I'm
Why, are you
curious.
gonna
No. But where is it?
Let me see. Where is that bar?
I mean, what state?
It is in, I'm not even the one that I don't know, it has to be Texas. That's where all the capitalists are, anyway. No.
Hang on, I'll tell ya.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, I don't have a problem with him putting whatever he has to put in there to make money. I'm kind of good with all of that. But the fact that he,
Minnesota.
Minnesota.
There you go.
Okay.
Right.
Mankato,
That explains it all.
Minnesota.
All
When
right,
it's
so-
really cold out there, they need to.
But
It's a
you-
PR stunt to get people in his bar. I'm telling you.
Maybe they don't have drugstores.
Look, if the guy had just come out and said, you know, one of my drunk, and this is what happened, somebody at the bar said to him, why don't you do one of these things? And he said, oh, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I mean, if you just come out and said that, and I put it up there, and I make $2 off of each test, what do you want me to do? This wouldn't even be a story at that
Too much
point,
ice. What is it? Ice fishing, where they, they send it.
a little too much together.
And you
now?
have
a
to be
little too
drunk
bad.
to do that. Okay, listen, after the break, how is it that society accepts breast popping out of low-cut tops, in a way objectifies women, and then kicks the mothers out of public places when they're breastfeeding? I wonder...
Where do you come up with these
we are a
things,
family
Joe?
show. It is the afternoon, so I won't go any further with it. We'll be right back.
I've smoked bud since I was a little kid.
The night before, I went to a rave and I was frying.
Yeah, I was addicted.
I used to want to kill myself, like, every day.
It's a slow death. That's all it is.
Hi everybody, I'm EJ Stevens.
And I'm Bill West.
We're the hosts of SCV in the Movies on SCV TV. We're here today at William S. Hart Park in Newhall, the former home of one of the actors who appears in several of the movies that we present.
Catch us on SCV TV on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. or Sundays at 10 p.m.
Or anytime at scvinthemovies.com.
Sir, are you okay? Everything's fine. Thanks.
You wouldn't ignore this, so why ignore the signs of a stroke? Call 911 immediately, because time lost is brain lost.
We're back. You're listening to The Real Side, not the right side. Not the wrong side, but The Real Side. I'm your host, Joe Messina. Today, Women of the Right View. That's right, where I get a bunch of conservative women together in the same room, and you will be surprised. They're not all Stepford women, for those of you old enough who remember that. Yes, I know what you're listening to. They don't all do exactly the same thing the same way, and I think you're going to find out as we get into some of these conversations. Maybe that first topic, pregnancy tests in the bathroom. And, no, we're going to keep it clean because it's...
Keep moving,
yeah,
Joe.
I know.
Keep moving.
My mind is going at 1,000,000 miles an hour, though. I could have a field day with that, but I'm sure that all of a sudden it'd be a switch flicked and we'd be playing music. Anyhow, all right, so let's deal with the next thing. This is always fun. What's the next one we're going to do? How is it that society accepts breast popping out of clothing? Those little, what do they call those little butt cheeks hanging out from underneath the shorts? That's okay, too. All this objectifies women, but then we kick mothers out of public places and we remove Facebook photos for the indecency of breastfeeding a child because it's unnatural.
Don't get me
Breastfeeding
started
children.
on this one. It just makes me
I already got you
so-
started. Look at your face.
It's so frustrating to me. I mean, where are our priorities? It's so frustrating. And I don't know if it's because most people can't relate to breastfeeding a child, so it's so easy for them to judge. It's so easy for them to say, oh, that's not acceptable. When you've never been in a position to, or they'll say, there's formula now, there's no reason for that anymore. Or, they just make judgment so quick.
Yeah, but I don't want to see you sit at a bench in the mall breastfeeding your child.
Why?
They used to have
Look away,
these feeding
Joe.
towels.
Look away,
Yeah, but they
exactly.
usually cover up. I
I'm
think
sorry,
they're-
but my child needs
But
to
what
eat.
if
But
you-
here's one
They
thing.
cover up.
I will say
Are you
that I
objecting
had
to
a,
using one of those breastfeeding towels?
let me
a light
explain
towel?
something to you. You clearly never breastfed a colicky
I would
child.
hope no.
And I will explain.
They go
why
hungry.
sometimes those blankets don't work because they're moving their heads and they're bopping and they're flailing their arms, and sometimes those blankets go right down on the floor. And when you're at a restaurant and it falls onto the floor, what are you going to do? It's sometimes just to get into
So
that
you don't
position
try?
is so difficult.
Do you not
Just to
try?
get into that position when it's a newborn,
How come she won't
just
answer
to
me?
get them to suck and then suddenly
talking?
unlatch and then relatch again. I mean, Kathy's nodding over there. She understands. If you've been in that position,
But do you not even try?
Well, I do. I think you try to be. You
I mean,
try
look what
and
you've got.
cover
You've
up.
got this thing on now that...
You can cover up, and I think that if you're somewhere where you can, like you said, maybe you can go into a mother's lounge or something to nurse the baby. But there are times, like she said, when you're infant, and I think that you can be discreet
that's more the
about it.
exception than the rule, though, is it not?
no, mother's lounges. I mean,
No,
you're
I'm
lucky
talking
like
about
in
the
a mall
colicky
if maybe
baby.
they.
In most cases, if they don't have a lounge and you have to feed the child, I have no problem. I don't want you going in the bathroom with those odors feeding
Yeah,
a child.
that's true.
Not pushing that.
Yeah,
but
but
if
there's
you're
no
gonna
place
on
to
a
sit in the
bench-
bathroom anyway.
Yeah, on the toilet, and it's
Yeah.
in a public
No.
bathroom.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think you should be forced to go in there. But if you're going to take a bench, right? Why wouldn't you at least try to throw a blanket? Not a blanket, not the big heavy blanket. They have those feeding blankets. What are you looking at me like that for, Tammy?
Sorry. I think you're fighting the wrong battle there, Joe. I think you just need to back off.
Yeah, and
Jason's
honestly,
don't
I
help.
think that I think we're living in a day and age of natural foods and health, and more people and more women and young women are nursing their children. I believe than maybe in my generation where it was more formula-fed babies. But
And the next show, what I'd like to do is there's a whole, there's two sides to this story. There are a group of doctors and psychologists that say it's wrong to breastfeed children, So let's
They're
take
wrong.
that one up next time too.
They're
as
wrong.
well.
We're not bringing them in.
Yeah.
You'd be
Very,
surprised.
very small.
Anyway, yeah, because
I think we
was
should
getting
call
mad about
God
it,
and
but I
get
figured
him
that
on the
was
line
wrong
when
one.
we have them in, because
Jason,
I'm pretty
give God a
sure that
call,
we
will ya?
should get the designer in and
Yeah,
see how we were
exactly.
built.
Anyway,
Exactly.
anyhow, so you're all saying that.
Well, I think the issue of this particular cartoon, I know that there's been a lot of stories related to this and in the news, but there was recently a cartoon on Facebook that was traveling around that was showing that about these, scantily clad these girls that are dressed in skimpy clothing, and they're judging another girl sitting on a bench, and she's nursing her child. So here they're saying, ooh, that's so gross. I can't believe she's letting it hang out. And yet here, they're wearing these tiny little skimpy halter tops, and you can practically see
Yes.
everything. So I think the bigger issue to me is how can we as women be supportive of other women? And, women who want to breastfeed, I mean, consider the way that our bodies are made and what they're made for, and supporting young life. And, I mean, to me,
But
it
it's
just seems
not
like why we
just-
can't be supportive of that?
I don't think it's just supporting the mothers, though. It's also an education process
Yeah.
to educate some of the younger generation that are the ones who tend to be the ones who stare and think that it's odd, and because they don't know. And so we need to educate our children that this is a very natural process,
Yeah.
and that it should be encouraged, not looked down upon.
The big irritant here is, where's the outcry to Facebook? Facebook's pulling down these pages of these pages where the mothers are breastfeeding their kids, or maybe there's a picture of a mother breastfeeding their kid, and they're pulling it down as under the indecency clause.
Oh, please.
Well,
Facebook.
because
Why don't you go to the movies? Look what they show on the movies,
yeah.
or turn on HBO or something. That is the most ridiculous thing. I mean, come on. If they're gonna have a set of rules, then quit being hypocrites about it.
Well,
right?
the only way to turn it around is for a huge outcry of people to be sending in the pictures of the half-naked, indecent, very sexy, hot-looking girls that are half-naked going, oh, this is indecent. You think that's going to happen? I don't think so.
Well, my only question about that would be, what are the purpose of these pictures? Are the purpose of these pictures to entertain? Because in that case, I would agree that they're not inappropriate.
Any
we don't
guy
need
that gets
pictures of
excited
breastfeed.
when watching a woman breastfeed, he needs, we were talking about psychiatrists a little while ago, he needs to be committed to a psychiatrist's office until it gets fixed.
No
because
question. But if it's to Tammy's point, where these pictures are being used to educate and for education, well then completely, I mean, you're doing a public service.
What if it's
but
just a family picture? Some people put stuff up there that's just, it's family stuff, right? Hey.
Yes, I probably wouldn't do that picture, but
No, but I mean, if it's,
suppose
but I think where
some
she's
would,
going the other
yeah.
side saying, Andrea, you're saying if it's put up there specifically to kind of be,
To titillate rather
Yeah,
than just to
just to
be
be-
educational.
right.
I mean, it could be used for that. And I think
that's
you just use common sense. I mean, just where's common sense? If you see a young mother struggling with an infant, the baby's screaming and the mother's doing her best, you know what? Leave her alone.
Yeah,
I mean, she's trying to take
absolutely.
care of her baby.
I'm okay with that. Hey, look, I'm not trying to play the
Thank
Gestapo
you,
here,
Joe.
but you heard
Thank
what I said
you.
earlier. I mean, I don't like when we use the exception as the norm. So to your point, that I've never had to breastfeed a colicky baby, thank God, because they would go hungry. But other than that, I think the colicky baby is probably more the exception than the rule, right? You're telling me 51% of the kids are colicky and all mothers are going to have trouble breastfeeding them?
It's about 30%, I think they say, or a little
So,
less. But what
from
I
the
will
school
say
I
is
went to,
that
that's not a majority, but go ahead.
But I will explain from my point of view, I was judged as a mother. So regardless of whether it's the minority or the majority, as a mother, in my experience, I got the looks, I was kicked out of public places. I was asked to go to public bathrooms in small, dark, smelly places and do it. So people responded to me in that way, whether I was in the majority or minority didn't matter to me.
I would have
as a
stuck
mother
up
at that
for
moment.
you not going into the bathroom. That's kind of stupid and crazy. That
and
makes no
you
sense.
know, excuse me, where do we value human life?
Exactly.
You know, everything else is just, they're trying to make it trashy. And here's something you're valuing the life of your child and the mother. I mean, people
Okay,
just
so
need to lighten.
we're up on the break. We're going to drop the breast conversation and
goodness.
feeding conversation, and we're going to go on to, here, watch me get them all crazy. Watch their faces, okay? When we come back from the break, I want to know if the shooter's parents should take any responsibility for what happened. You'll see the real side, not the right side, not the wrong side, but the real side. I'm your host, Joe Messina. We'll be right back.
Did you know you can now get your exclusive Santa Clarita News every night on TV? SCV Newsbreak is a nightly news program at the top of every hour through the evening, brought to you by SCV TV and AM 1220 KHTS. Monday through Friday, it features news, sports, weather, and entertainment, and it is only about what is happening in Santa Clarita. It's the SCV News Break, weekday evenings here on SCV TV, local television for Santa Clarita.
Hi everybody, I'm EJ Stevens.
And I'm Bill West.
And you may know us from SCV in the movies on SCV TV. We're here today at William S. Hart Park to tell you about a very special event that's taking place on Saturday, August 11th.
That's right, it's called Silence Under the Stars, where on Hart's property outside we show a great old William S. Hart film. We're particularly excited about this year's because we're going to show a rare non-Western Hart film called The Whistle. So come check it out. You can get more information and tickets on friendsofhartpark.org. You can call 661-222-9542 for more information.
So we look forward to seeing you on August 11th at Silence Under the Stars.
Hi, I'm Cindy with Santa Clarita Transit, and I'm going to show you today how easy it is to read a bus schedule to get to where you want to go. The first thing you'll need to do is locate your bus stop, and you can do that by looking at the transit system map in the middle page of every schedule book. Now identify the destination on the map and select the route that'll get you there. Next, locate the timetable for the route or routes you are traveling on. Not all bus stops are located on the table, so find the nearest time point identified at the top of the timetable by a yellow diamond. Once you identify the time you need to leave, make sure to note the route number on the side of the timetable to the corresponding time. This is very important because a stop might be served by multiple routes, and we wouldn't want you to get on the wrong bus. There will be times when you need to take multiple routes to reach your destination. The system map will help you reach your destination. The system map will help you locate transfer points in between routes. Some popular transfer points include the McBean Regional Transit Center and the Newhall Metrolink Station. Let's look at an example. Say you're at the Newhall Metrolink Station and you want to go to Magic Mountain for a day of fun. You can take the route 5 or 6 from your starting point and transfer to the route 3 or 7 at the McBean Regional Transit Center, which will take you right to Magic Mountain. Please note that all of our local routes stop at the McBean Regional Transit Center, which acts as a central transfer point in the city.
Well, if you hear the music, you know we're with the Women of the Right View today. That's right, where I get a bunch of conservative women together in the same room, and you will find that they don't come up with the same answer. They don't approach things the same way, unlike some of you out there leaning left think. You think that we're all on the same page. We do exactly the same thing at the same time. Apparently, you live in another universe. You're listening to The Real Side, not the right side, not the wrong side, but The Real Side. I'm your host, Joe Messina. If you want to get involved in a conversation, it's 855-REAL-JOE or 855-732-5563. If you like the show, hop on Facebook and do us a little click on the like. If you don't like the show, Facebook has gone out of business. You can't find us. Send me an email during the show, joe@therealside.com, and I'll try to answer it or send the conversation in the direction you want to go in. Or if you hop on therealside.com, you can. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on there, including the chat room. So you can actually get involved in the conversation. Anyway, I want to get back to it. We were talking, I did a little tease before we went to break and almost got beat up during the break. The shooter, the Colorado shooter. We're talking about breastfeeding, we're talking about all this other stuff, and I don't want to make light of it or joke of it, but it's interesting when I'm reading what's going on in the different chat rooms and on Facebook and on Twitter. We want to blame parents for what they do with their kids or what they don't do with their kids. And is there anything your parents do that affects you later on in life? Now, we're going to talk later on about spanking, and you're going to hear how when you spank a child, it makes them more violent later, or it does this to them or does that to them. So they're trying to make a direct correlation between how a child is brought up and how they act later on. So if you're going to do that to me, I'm going to do this to you three. Because the shooter, being violent, did what he did, being cold-hearted. Don't his parents have any responsibility for that? Is it something they brought him up with? Did they not breastfeed him? I mean, what?
I just feel nothing but extreme grief and sorrow for the parents, because we don't know. I mean, we're so quick to judge, and you can do everything right, and you still can have children that end up committing crimes. I've known people that have been marvelous, wonderful people that have had children that have had many problems, and it's just we feel enough guilt as a parent. I mean, I do. Don't you? I mean, I still kind of like, so, I mean, why blame why blame them before we even know what the situation is?
I'm not necessarily saying we blame them, but what I'm saying is, I love when we pull all these studies and say, see what parents do to kids to cause them to do this. But I haven't heard that with this. All I'm saying is, can you draw a line, Andrea, to his upbringing at all, or is this just all him?
Well, I'm not a doctor, so I certainly couldn't even guess what would be causing someone to behave like this and so violently. But, yes, it begs the question of what experiences did this boy have growing up and he's a young kid, basically. He's 20s? So what experiences have changed the way that he's...
neuroscience. I mean, he was a genius.
So it does
even at his early
beg
age.
the question of what has happened to him that's made him so act out in a way that's so intense and so violent. So
but does that
it's very
translate to
complicated.
responsibility for the parents?
I mean, I think this is a really complicated issue, and I think you can't say yes or no without being a professional
But
who's really
even when you listen to
studied them.
professionals, they all say the same thing. Look, you teach your kids how to push through. You teach your kids how to not push through. You start to form in your children how they push through life, how they take on things. You're helping to mold how they do that.
Do I think that
right?
parents have an important role to play in the way that a child is raised and the person they become? Absolutely. No question. Okay. Yes, and I take that job as a parent very seriously, and I think most parents do.
Well, it's like children that are abused very often grow up to become abusers. So we can understand that, yes, there are facts.
So there's
and
a direct
issues.
line.
There would be a direct line in that. But who was the guy that, I'm trying to think, the mass murderer? Remember, he was Mr. All-American that murdered all those girls. And then
Ted Bundy.
Ted Bundy. You looked at him and his life, his upbringing, upper middle class, educated. And, you look at, I never heard anything about his upbringing being awful. It was just choices that he made. He just decided to become an evil person.
Yeah, and then you wonder if mentally maybe there's some instability there under the surface.
Or they just make a choice to be evil.
Now, Kathy, you have older children.
Yes.
Tammy, we have older children.
Yes, we do.
We talk to them. Mm-hmm. You know when something's wrong, right? Mm-hmm. You know when they're off, when there's something wrong, there's something going on
Generally,
in their lives.
I do, yes.
Okay. If you were concerned about your son or daughter or one of your children maybe harming themselves or somebody else, you knew there was something dreadfully wrong, would you not engage?
Yes, I would engage.
Okay. I just don't believe. We had a psychologist on last Friday, and she said the same thing over and over again, was there is no way this young man did not display signs. Somebody had to be locked in, and now we're finding out that was a true statement.
Who was locked in?
Well,
who was
mean his
noticing
behavior
him?
was odd or cruel or out there?
Who were they saying was noticing?
Teachers around him, people around him.
Because I don't.
His parents won't say anything.
Well, his parents lived in another state, or at least his mother did. So to try and hold her responsible, I mean, if he was living with her, because first of all, he's 24, right? If he was living with her, I would expect, hopefully, that she would notice some signs too, unless there was something not quite right with her. But he's not living with her. Right. And sometimes we go long periods of times without hearing from our children, and we don't know what they're doing day in and day out and day to day, especially our adult children. And the parents cannot be held responsible at this point, even if they beat the living tar out of him on a regular basis every day while he was growing up. You have to learn how to come out of your circumstances.
And who's to say that it's, like you say, we always want to say it's a mental something or other going on. Maybe not. Maybe it's just a choice that he thought, this is my chance to be famous. And I mean, I don't know. We're always so quick to say they're mentally...
or it may be some instability. Who knows? It doesn't really matter. The guy is an adult at this point. He's 24. Yes, maybe the teachers should have, maybe they did have him red flagged as, to keep an eye on, but maybe he didn't really show any violent tendencies. Were they supposed to flag him and say, hey, somebody needs to keep an eye on this guy, or call the police and go check his apartment because he seems kind of weird?
Well,
that's a violation of civil rights.
Now, the counselor he saw said that he had made a comment that he sometimes either daydreams or kind of envisions himself up at the clock tower shooting people on campus.
Then he had a responsibility to report that.
Well, here's what he said. He said, I looked at the guy and I thought to myself, no, he's a clean-cut, down-to-earth kind of guy, and he's just having one of those thoughts.
See, he might have some responsibility.
I
Maybe
think
he's
so, too.
questioning himself now.
would
But
agree
think
with
about
that.
it. Think about how many people say very extreme things in a, that they just don't mean. Like, man, I'm gonna
just wanna kill you.
You know
Yes.
what? That is a great point, and I think I see young people do that all the time, and this is an important lesson then in that, because
Yes.
be careful what you say. Words are powerful. Words are incredibly destructive. So don't think that you can say, and this also goes online. I see this on social media all the time.
If
with
he
young
breaks
people.
up with me, I'm gonna kill him.
I mean,
that's
really
not real.
language that is strong and really ridiculous, and it can hurt. It's damaging. It can be violent and it's dangerous. And I think this is a great lesson for young people, that be careful what you say and choose your words carefully, because these are also you're having thoughts and they turn into words, and that turns into action. I mean, that's just.
I used to
that's
tell
what
my
happens.
children when they'd say, "Oh, I hate so-and-so," and I said, do you realize what the word hate means? I mean, there were certain things that I really tried to, not that I by far have the perfect mother by any means, but there were certain things, I hate them. I am like, that is a word that we do not want to use in this family. You cannot like something somebody did, but to say hate, there's a lot of, like you said, there's something destructive about that word.
Well, you know what? My thought process, maybe he didn't. 2 minutes, huh? Good. So I'll get them riled up, and then we'll move on to the break. So, my attitude is maybe he didn't get spanked enough, but we're going to look into that here in a second.
Oh, no. Here we go.
So, anyhow, according to not just a study, but there's been plenty of studies out now that say that spanking is linked to mental illness, and it's a tough one because you can find. I talked to Andrea at great length before the show started on this issue, and a lot of the reports also say that it affects the child's IQ, which I don't. My attitude is this: when you look at and we'll talk about it more on the other side of the break, but I'll do the setup because it's my mic. When you look at the way they did the study, they took a really small amount of parents over a fairly short period of time compared to some of the other tests that were done. And what parents were they? I'd like to know. I'd like the whole breakdown of what these. What did they aspire to? Were they church-going people? Were they not church-going people? Did mommy and daddy work? Did only daddy work? I want more than this is what it leads to. Because frankly, here's my conclusion in looking at some of the notes. Wearing jeans causes you to be more violent because a lot of those kids were violent, and I would imagine they all had jeans on, or a lot of them had jeans on. Wearing sneakers could possibly make you stupid, bring your IQ down, and make you dumb, because according to the test, a lot of the kids wore sneakers. So, I look at this stuff and say to myself, give me some more detail. Give me some more detail to the study. I want to know the kind of people that they were studying. Because I've sat in a room with a large group of people my age who all got hit, and none of them have had psychiatric care yet. Anyway, you're listening to The Real Side, not the right side, not the wrong side, but The Real Side. We'll be back with Women of the Right View right after this.
Have a banana. Eating well and playing go together like best friends.
You better believe it.
With the food pyramid, the bare necessities of living healthy are easy.
Bare necessities, the simple bare necessities.
So eat right. Be active.
Now move. That's it.
And don't forget to have fun. That's the way to be the best.
You're lots of fun, Baloo.
At anything you do. You can go to mypyramid.gov to play some games and find out more.
Santa Clarita is Southern California's entertainment destination. Just minutes from LA, Santa Clarita's year-round weather means you can enjoy year-round fun. Like thrilling coasters and water parks, premium shopping, destination day spas, fine dining, outdoor adventure, and major events such as wine festivals, golf tournaments, and the Cowboy Festival. Santa Clarita, always in season.
Do you know how much water you use daily? A typical Santa Clarita Valley resident averages 270 gallons every day. You can lower your water number with simple adjustments to your outdoor watering. Replace a section of your water-guzzling grass with California-friendly plants. Reduce evaporation by watering at night or early morning. And set your sprinklers to run for 2 short cycles to avoid runoff. What's your water number?
If you're hearing that music, no, you're on the right station. This is The Real Side with Joe Messina, but today is Women of the Right View. where I get a bunch of conservative women in the room that try to make sense out of all the crazy stuff going on around us. Hey, real quick before I get started, if you're on camera, I got Chick-fil-A. Go read The Real Side. Go look at the website. I am supporting Chick-fil-A. I'll talk about it more as the week goes on. And then next Wednesday, it'll be all Chick-fil-A all day for The Real Side. We'll talk about that later on. And I really don't like what's going on with the reason they're being targeted. I'm not really happy about that. So anyhow, other than that, let's get back to it. We were going to talk about, Berta. I got to make in the chat. Okay, I'll introduce everybody. Berta, great. Yeah, the nuns kept me in line. Let me tell you what. If the nuns didn't have yardsticks and pointer, they use laser pointers today in school, and they don't hurt. The pointers that the nuns had, they hurt. But I tell you what, as I was yakking away and trying to pull the girl's hair next to me, when that thing hit me across the shoulders, I stopped everything. And usually for a couple of weeks. It was a couple of weeks before I fell down the wrong way. So anyway, so just so you guys in the chat room know, yes, I was hit, not beat, but I was hit as a child. And if I wasn't, my personal opinion, I'd be in jail today. But that's just me. Anyway, I'm here with the Women of the Right View. I've got Kathy Keller to my left.
Keller.
I know, but I was trying to... Kathy Keller to my left. I've got Andrea Nelson to my far right, but not really. and Tammy Messina sitting to my right. She is usually to my far right. And so we're talking about spanking and the effect that spanking has. And some of the recent... I'm going to say it. I know somebody's going to throw something at me. But some of the recent more progressive left-wing people want to say that spanking leads to mental illness, or it's linked to mental illness. And that spanking is also linked to lower IQs. And spanking is linked
most
to...
liberal people? Is that what you just said?
Spanking is linked to violence. The children who are spanked are more violent than others. I mean, really, come on. Spanking is linked to the common cold. It's probably linked to socialism and communism. And we could have a field day with this. But I'll let Andrea start because I know she's just chomping at the bit. So, Andrea, so you never spank, or you should never spank, or what's the deal here?
It's not something that I choose to do with my kids. And we were talking before the show, like you'd mentioned a little at length. So basically, yes, this opinion comes from my own personal experience, which I think most of us have opinions based on our opinions largely are based on our own personal experience. So I don't see anything wrong with that. But it's a decision that I've made for my family. It's not my number one preferred form of discipline. It's on the bottom of my list. I'm not going to say that I've never spanked my children because that would not be true. But it is not something I do often. It's reserved for very, very serious circumstances. I will say that I have spanked my son for darting into the street, and I wanted to make a point, very clear point, that was not acceptable and that was not safe. So I did do that once, but when I grew up, my parents, that was the only form of discipline. That was it. We had a wooden spoon, and multiple times at a time. I mean, I had welts, and it was not only painful physically, but emotionally. I never understood as a 6-year-old how my parents could say, oh, we really love you and we're doing this because we love you, and yet I was still in so much physical pain. So I never understood that as a small child.
But as an adult, that's not right. That you don't just jump right to the beating. There has to be steps before you get there, correct?
And I think, absolutely. There has to make sense to a child there has to be consequences that fit the crime, that make sense. The consequences have to be expected. You have to say, this is going to happen if you do X. And then that consequence always has to happen if the crime's committed.
Okay, so where do you think what do you think that California, University of California at Berkeley stands on this? What would you think?
Imagine that they would say it is always
no
bad.
Yeah. Sorry, wrong answer.
Well, she was right. I mean, if your
child...
new
study... Wait, I want you to hear this. A new study from the University of California at Berkeley finds no lasting harm among adolescents from spanking earlier in childhood. The study took more than 100 families over 12 years.
Well, I'll tell you that for me, that's not true.
But
for me, and I can tell you from my own personal experience...
Discipline wasn't well-rounded for you.
That's not... That's, I mean, the way my even parents, I said this in the break, but my parents, now my mother has expressed that some regrets for the way that, that they disciplined me.
Yes, my kids don't listen, but if they were listening, they would call you and say, no, they knew what they were building up to, and some of them were smart enough to stop just before they stepped over the line. But they were willing to take the the not being able to do something with everybody else because they wanted to,
I think a timeout is really effective, and I've seen my daughter with my grandchildren. The timeouts, and I remember as a little girl, having to sit on a chair for like 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, to me, that was the worst thing you could do to me, is that I had to sit on that chair. So I agree with you. I mean, I really rarely spank my children, but you have a 2-year-old that runs into the street in oncoming traffic. How do you don't sit there and explain to them how dangerous that is. You have to react quickly and let them know, because you're so scared, number one, that they're going to be hurt, right? So I think there's a time and a place for things like that.
And I think you really have to understand your children and not say, and I think it's completely irresponsible of us.
Though?
But listen, hold on a second.
Yeah.
I think it's irresponsible of all of us to say that spanking is okay in all situations or not okay in all situations, because it also depends, and we know as parents, it depends on your children, and each child
But you agree with the
responds
statement?
differently.
Because when these so-called universities put out information like this, we as parents step back and go, "Oh my God, the university says so." So most of these studies say, no, you don't spank your children. So are you saying you don't agree with that? That there may be times
But there
where you have
are
to spank your
studies
child?
that show the opposite, Joe, and we know that. We know that there are studies on both sides.
I'm holding one in my hand, too.
Well, how about if we just use some common sense and just say, these are
Kathy,
my children.
don't go there. What are you talking
There's
about?
gonna be logic in the conversation. Nobody
What
wants
works
to play.
for one child doesn't work for the other. Like I had a daughter, and all you'd have to do is just look at her with this, and she was just, I would have never, I never laid a finger on her because she would be devastated. But my boys, sometimes to get their attention, or if there was my son's out on the roof at 5 years old in a 2-story house. Hello, get inside the house. And then I gave him one swat on the rear end because I was so scared.
Mm-hmm.
But still, I think that it's, just use common sense. I mean, really, do you love your children? I think you should love them and be engaged, but you should be a parent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be a parent, even as adults. Your
Well,
children don't want a best friend,
ladies,
they want a parent.
We're up against it. I'd like to share to you, what a psychologist told us about our oldest son, and it about killed him. But we'll deal with that later. You'll see the real side, not the right side, not the wrong side, but the real side. I'm your host, Joe Messina. We'll be right back.
How do you convince a 14-year-old girl that hair doesn't matter? When the diagnosis is childhood cancer, where can parents turn? CureSearch.org can help. It's run by doctors and scientists whose research has led to an overall cure rate of 78%. You're not as alone as you feel.
An old knee injury used to keep me from enjoying the things I love most. Dr. Barraza has completely changed my life.
I never thought going to a chiropractor could make me pitch better, but it has. It's kind of my little secret.
What I do has proven to increase your quality of life naturally, without any drugs or surgery. Vertical Wellness, where your health and well-being is my business.
I'm Dan Sturkle, General Manager for Nissan of Valencia. If you like your money as much as the next guy, we say hold on to it. Here at Nissan of Valencia, $99 down delivers any new or used vehicle in stock. Hard to believe? Here's our disclosure. Blah, blah, blah. Total from you, $99. Oh, and blah, 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 on approved credit. Bankruptcies, foreclosures, late pays, hey, it's all okay here. We have tons of banks vying for your business. Nissan of Valencia, home to the $99 down delivers. Hope to see you soon.
We're back. You're listening to the real side, not the right side, not the wrong side, but the real side. I'm your host, Joe Messina. Hey, I want to thank you for joining us today, being part of the discussion, hopping on the chat room. You can always go back and get the classic podcasts. I hate that word, old podcasts. That sounds kind of raggedy. But you can go back and get a classic podcast. You can also send me an email to joe@therealside.com. I want to know what topics you want to hear. I want to know what you, maybe some guests that you have in mind to bring into the studio. Jason.
Hi, Joe.
Were you beaten off as a child? Because you're well behaved.
Well, thank you. I done learned well. Yeah. No.
I'll talk about Chick-fil-A.
Not often, but spanking was not. It was an option.
It was an option.
It was an option.
And did that deter you from doing certain things? Maybe you think
sure did. Yeah. and also, just
And how many sessions to the shrink have you been to?
I've never been, so I'm doing just fine in spite of the fact that I was spanked.
You have a healthy respect for authority. Maybe?
I do.
Okay.
I'm
Except
a
for me.
law-abiding citizen.
Apparently I'm not an authority figure in your life yet.
Well, you found me out, Joe. You found me out.
But no, I don't think that beating a child, and if you go from 0 to taking the belt out, that's not the right way to go.
Spanking and beating are totally different things.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that much, and I agree with you. I mean, there are ways to, one child I could shoot a look at, and she'd drop to her knees, start crying, and never do it again. And the other one I could look at and go, yeah, right, what are you going to do about it?
And I'm recording this show so that later on when I get upset with something that you said, I'll be like, well, we do agree on some things, like
You're
spanking.
gonna play this.
And I'm going to play this.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to bring my kids in one day and really let you have a field day with it. You're listening to The Real Side. Well, not anymore. We're gone for today. Check out the website, therealside.com. Find out what's coming up tomorrow, the next day, and the next day. I'm Joe Messina, your host. Thanks for joining me today.